So welcome everyone to webinar 4. We're looking at putting it all together in this webinar for cybersecurity management. We have talked about all the disciplines of cybersecurity management. We've talked about the ways of being efficient and effective in cybersecurity management by being good at communicating and collaborating and being trustworthy as a security professional. And we've also talked about the technical side of things, where we had logging and monitoring, we had vulnerability scanning and penetration testing, and also incident response. So we talked about all the things that we need to do there. And we had that great exercise where a lot of you, and hopefully most of you by the end of this course, have been able to get log messages going to a centralized log repository and being able to search on that and create alerts and events. And then we've talked about the governance part of it, being a cybersecurity critic, being able to find the gaps and being able to ensure that compliance is maintained. Last week we talked a lot about the controls in cybersecurity. We talked about the different types of controls that you can put in place across an enterprise architecture, and we talked about how an enterprise security architecture overlays an enterprise architecture to ensure that the business stays safe. Now this week we're going to talk about how to be at the top of that, how to lead that practice that has elements of all of those things. And it could be that you're just one person in an organization doing the security lead role, and you need to be the cybersecurity warrior, the critic, and the visionary. You need to think about those things, but it's important to think about all of those things. It could be that you're in a mid-sized business where you have 3 people in your team. You have a technical specialist, a warrior, you've got a critic, and you have a visionary, but you've got to make them all work together. You've got to get them on the same path, on the same roadmap, and developing in similar ways and providing benefit to the organization. So now we're going to learn how to do that as a cybersecurity manager. And really, what I'm talking about is being the cybersecurity lead in your organization. Maybe the one-man band, maybe in a larger organization, you may have a team of 50. But these are the aspects of cybersecurity management that you need to consider and stay aware of. So this is what we're talking about here. We've covered all of these, the warriors, critics, and visionaries. We're going to look at how to manage down and how to govern up. Now, we did cover a lot of the governance part in the first webinar, so I'm going to focus more on the management side of it. So how do you make sure that this area stays healthy and well? And that's all about getting the right people, keeping their skills up, making sure they're educated, and making sure that you are putting the right priorities on these guys here to address the highest risks first. All right, so let's dive into it. And we'll stop again halfway through to answer some questions. All right, so how do we get the right resources? How do we get the right people? Well, you can go internal or you can go external. There's 2 basic options. Now, internal's actually quite handy, quite obvious to say that internal people, if they've had a history with the organization and have a lot of knowledge about how the organization works. And that actually is very beneficial. Knowing who to talk to when something goes wrong, knowing who's responsible for what. It's difficult to have that in a document when people naturally accumulate that information in their minds and know people, and they create those networks within organizations. Having someone in your team with already those mental mind maps is very beneficial for certain things. I've seen quite a few cybersecurity critics come from staff members because I think there's less technical requirement to be a critic, but sometimes when you need some specific skills like pen testing or incident response, then sometimes you need to go outside the organization, unless there's someone with that deep technical experience that you can convert, and that can happen also. Now, external hiring, you're really talking about going to market. It takes a long time. Evaluating someone thoroughly and effectively is not an easy thing to do. Sometimes you're just not sure how they're going to react on the job, and you just have to be as thorough as possible. But then again, you don't have all the time in the world to do it. So it's a really important thing if you're doing external hiring to make sure you get the person with the right attitude, with the right skill set, and the right experience. And I will not undersell the necessity for getting the right people. Getting the wrong people will set you back years. It will. It really will. Getting the right people will catapult you into much faster effectiveness. So it's all about getting the right people. Now, when you get the right people, and I do believe there's a place for everyone. There's a place in some organization, in some team for everyone, but maybe somebody you have isn't working in your particular team or organization. That is possible too. But when you've got those people, how do you keep them? How do you get them to stay on your team? If you've got a gung penetration tester who is being, poached, or having, recruiters calling him every week trying to get him to go somewhere else, how do you keep them interested? How do you make sure that they buy into something which is bigger than what they perceive just to themselves? Well, you've got to give them a vision. You've got to give them a vision in three areas. I see the need to give them a vision as a company. You give them a vision where you're going as an organization, so that they can buy into that and believe that they are doing something worthwhile. It's very heavy rain where I am at the moment. I have a tin roof, so I'm hoping it's not causing any static. Anyway, we'll continue on. I think Margie will tell me if she can't hear me. Then there's got to give an idea about vision for the team. The team as it stands needs to have a purpose, and if you have an organization that you believe in, it's even more important to have a team that you believe in. What is the team doing? Are they doing something worthwhile, or are they just kind of trying to slow things down in the organization? Are they trying to help people succeed, or are they just trying to be a dampener on the organization? So that's the idea about the vision. Is where are you going as an organization's team, and then giving them a vision about them as an individual. How are they going to grow with the team and with the company, so that when they leave the team, because they inevitably will, I mean, they could be there for 2 years, they could be there for 15 years, but what you want to do as a manager, as a cybersecurity manager of these resources, is make sure when they leave the team, they have a much better and more marketable skill set than when they join the team. You want them to be able to lift off into a good career, and a lot of that is their responsibility. But you certainly want to encourage them in that, and you certainly don't want to reduce that at all or dampen that at all. Okay, so keeping the right people, I think mostly about vision. Where are you headed? What's happening? And is it part of something important? And there's an overarching thing about this is if you've got a company, team, and individual vision, there's also a part of being something bigger, part of being, not only doing something good for your company because you're keeping it safe, but keeping the company safe actually means it's more economically viable, which means you're doing something good for the country. Now, this is starting to get a bit cheesy, but bear with me. But if you're doing something good for the country and you're helping the good guys succeed and you're stopping the bad guys from succeeding, then you're actually doing something good for humanity. So I know that's a bit of a stretch. We are just InfoSec professionals doing our thing for the company, and we're trying to save profits and all that sort of stuff. But there is a moral aspect to what we do. We are trying to, at the base of it, keep the good guys in and the bad guys out, and that's what we're trying to do. So remember that vision about what you're trying to do, and I think it's one of the reasons why information security and cybersecurity and being a security practitioner in an organization really appeals to me as a profession. Other thing about keeping people is benefits. So you've got to have a good team culture. You've got to give them the ability to grow with that vision. but also to grow as individuals, not just in a professional sense. You've got to think about training. What are they doing next? What are they going to achieve? What skills are you going to equip them with to do what they're doing? And hopefully you're part of an organization that is freely giving of training. That's always one big thing that is good. Not all organizations are the same like that. They don't all invest in training. And also pay. Hopefully, it's much easier keeping people when you can pay them well, and you can pay them to a level that they're happy with. And that's always got to be tempered. It'd be great to give everyone, $1 million a week to do what they do, but it's not always possible. So it has to be tempered, but it has to be fair as well. So, but the main thing there is to keep them happy so they're not disgruntled and disillusioned. But I'd have to say that in terms of my perspective, if I was part of a team where there was great vision, there was great growth, there was a good culture, then pay has got to be at a certain level to make the job tenable. But it would be something I would sacrifice to get the other things. Yeah. Keeping the right people is also about giving them time. There is I've got a list of podcasts at the end of this webinar, which talks about various aspects of being a cybersecurity manager, not only efficiency and productivity, but also how to be a good manager and also how to stay on top of security news. And one of the things I've learned in my management time is that it is, from a manager's perspective, it's easy not to do one-on-ones because you're really busy. It's easy not to do one-on-ones. But when you're a team member, one-on-ones are like gold. They're like insights into the rest of the organization. They are, you're if you're not having one-on-ones, you're starved for information from the upper levels of management. So it's really important to do one-on-ones. And my benchmark is you've got to do a one-on-one for half an hour every fortnight with your team members, at least. That's the minimum. So we have to do that. And that will inspire them, keeps them engaged, and is a good way of communicating and getting your team to actually believe and trust you, because you're there to be trusted. Skills and experience. You're obviously looking for people with the skills that they can walk in and do their job and do what you need them to do. If you're looking for a cybersecurity critic, you're looking for someone who's reviewed a lot of projects in the past or done a compliance program. That's the sort of skills and experience you're looking for. If you're looking for someone who can do PCI, then there's a bit of a learning curve to PCI. Give someone at least maybe the first time they've obtained compliance somewhere. That's a good thing to have for PCI. You want someone who's got communication skills, both written and verbal. Obviously, you want someone with attitude, a good attitude, not attitude in the negative sense, but someone with a can-do attitude, someone who doesn't look for obstacles and reasons why not to do things, but gets on with it. You want someone who's sensible as well and will give you an honest answer, but the attitude is very important. And then you want sometimes you get someone with natural abilities, and that's a very special thing. If you get someone in the critic area or the warrior area with natural abilities, it is very special to see, and I think can make a big impact to an organization's risk profile, getting someone in those areas that are actually very naturally gifted at what they do. I'm particularly talking about warriors. If you get someone who is in your organization and can break things and fix things technically and has a very deep technical understanding from a security perspective, you can do a lot to put in effective controls. So it's a big one to look for. All right, now, how do we acquire these people? So we've got the profile of the sort of people that we want. That's a general profile. But how do we actually get someone who's good? Now, this is a really key skill for a cybersecurity manager, and it took me a long time to develop this. I made some pretty bad mistakes early on when hiring people. It is a bit of a science. There's a lot of luck involved, but you're basically trying to reduce the amount of risk. I mean, it's another risk management process. You're trying to get as good enough understanding of the person to reduce the risk that they won't be right for the role. And I've honed this down, read a number of books, and tried to come out with some good principles. A couple of things I'll share now. Halfway through, yeah, I will. Okay, so the first thing you've got to advertise. You've got to make the advertisement look interesting. Okay, and what you'll find is that when you put an advertisement up, is that you're only going to get the people who are looking for a job, and that's not the larger portion of the workforce. So there are other tools like LinkedIn where you can go and mine or go and be connected with a whole group of individuals in the same industry, and do keyword searches on skills and experience and things like that. And that's really beneficial and helpful. So there is that, and there's also the importance of drawing on the people you've known. If you're in the security industry for 10, 15 years, you're bound to know quite a few people, and people get reputations. If you are also you know the backgrounds of people, then maybe you can look for certain people who are similar to fill the role as well. So you lose someone who's got a development background and they're really good for a certain role you had, then maybe a development background is what you're looking for. So then we go through, we've got advertisement, we get Seek and LinkedIn, you get a whole lot of candidates that come through, or maybe you're just talking to recruiters, and they provide you with candidates. You're going to at some stage do a paper review. You're going to look at their resume, their cover letter, and maybe some questionnaires you put together, and you'll find out what they think about themselves, how they're trying to present themselves, and try and get a good feel of that. And it's important to me to be methodical about it, and to rate things. And what I do is I put, and the last point there is document it all. What I do is I put down a worksheet, a kind of a process that has got a paper review, a phone interview, a form in it where I fill it all out, and I come up with scores and percentages. And you may think that's quite a mathematical way of going through it, but if you do it like that, then you can really get a good sense of someone and their suitability for the role. It's got to be well thought out, though. You don't want to, score someone poorly when they should have been scored well. So be aware of that. You're then going to do a phone interview, most likely, or you may be that keen on them, you get them to do a face-to-face interview straight away. The phone interview will often be, a couple of questions related to the job they have now, the job that they are, why they're interested, why they're leaving, and then a few questions about the job that they are going for and related to that, so you can get an understanding of experience. And then you can start to build that profile of who they are. When they pass that, and it will pass that, when they prove themselves worthy, you progress them to the next stage, you get them in for a face-to-face. Now, what I like to do is to have that first face-to-face just a coffee meeting, just to sit down and to discuss what the role is, get a measure of the person in person so that you understand and make it a one-on-one thing. And that takes away nerves. You get through to the underlying person. You get a much better measure of who it is. Then you get them into the senior management interview and making sure, hopefully, that you'll be a part of that. So that's a really important step, that final step of interviewing, and there might be a few things. You may think 3 interviews is too much, like a phone, a face-to-face, and an upper-level management, but maybe some organizations need more than that. But I would say that's the minimum you need to really get a good idea of who is going to be in your organization. And I think the way to take this attitude is that you are looking for a candidate that you would be proud to put in your team and be a spokesperson for and to endorse. And you are looking to sell that person into the organization and make them successful in the organization. And that's the attitude I would take with it. And obviously you documented all, like I said, you have it all there about how you developed the candidate through the process. So that's the process of it. Now, what are we looking for? So you've got 4 types of people, really, when you look at it. You've got the warriors, the critics, the visionaries, and then the the visionaries and leaders, and then the manager or the lead security person. The warriors, we are looking for a heavy bias towards technical skill. It's it's absolutely no surprise that if we're looking for someone to be in the trenches, they need to know how to use a weapon, right? So those technical skills, and it's not something that everyone has. It's not, and sometimes it's not something you can develop. The ones with a heavy bias towards technical skills often have their own home setup. They're often developing their own things already, and it's something they naturally gravitate towards. It's very hard to force someone who doesn't naturally do that into that role. Often they're either developers or scripters. You can ask them what their favorite scripting language is, and they'll argue about that. They have incident handling experience, so maybe they've dealt with real life incidents before and resolved and mitigated, and to the key here, they have replicated particular issues and attacks. So they have that kind of experience. This person also loves logs. They love looking through command line. They love grep and awk and sed. They love going through and making calculations on the command line about certain things. They are naturally good at breaking into things and doing that penetration testing. And I'm talking about the ideal person here. And they also perform technical work in their own times, like what I was saying, that they develop these skills not just in work time, but outside of work time as well. They have a natural ability to solve technical problems as well. They have a natural feel for it. And they don't always have the best personal skills. And that's not a slight, but they can sometimes feel more comfortable with computers than with people. It's just the way it is. I often talk about this type of resource as having a communication style of UDP rather than TCP. And I hope some of you laughed out loud there, even though I can't hear you. Just assume everyone laughed out loud, I think. All right, the resource type of the critic. So here we're looking for someone who does not need to be from a technical background. They can come from a consulting background. They can come from a business analysis background. They need to develop an understanding of risk, though. So someone who can, if they're not sure about a certain control that is not in place, then they will go to someone who has a technical understanding of the likelihood and impact of the lack of that control. And so that's the bit that's really missing if you take someone without that technical background. But they can develop that over time. This is something that can be very well developed. They don't need to know all the technical intricacies of every control to be able to vet them. They need to be detail-oriented. Often these are people who are good at proofreading documents and will find grammatical and spelling errors all the time. And if you know people like that, then they might be good as the critic. And we all know people are kind of like that. They are methodical and they are persistent. When you find gaps in controls, there is one thing to find them, and lots of people can find them, but it's another person to persist with that gap until it's closed. Because you're talking then about being the squeaky wheel, being able to push through a solution, and that is a unique gift, and then take some project management skills in there. And also it takes good skills in verbal and written communication. They need to be able to be convincing and persuasive to those who have systems that the gaps reside in, that they need to fill those gaps, and they need to be able to escalate at the right time so as not to burn bridges, but to apply the right pressure to the right people to get things done. So that's a really important part. The visionary really has a mix between network and IT background. They can see the bigger picture, so they've got a lot of experience. Usually the visionary has got a title like an architect or a solution designer. Someone who's doing macro designs and looking at bigger scenarios and how things fit together at a macro level. But then they also need to be able to understand the technical details of how things interact precisely together and individually together, because not only do they need to know the bigger picture, but where those kind of bubbles or systems are intersecting, if they're not compatible or they don't work like that, they need to understand that. So it's a difficult one to get. It's a difficult role to play. What's even more difficult, is working out if the visionary is doing a good job. if the person here who's playing the architect role is actually architecting the environment well, because it is very subjective once it's gone in. You can look at it in many different ways. So it's a difficult thing, but really it's about putting in controls and reducing the incidents and addressing risk. They tackle problems in a strategic manner rather than just tactical. So when they're often the person asking, well, we know how to fix that problem, but how do we fix it for all these types of problems? That's the person bringing up, well, that fixes that particular issue now, but what if we have a different issue of the same nature tomorrow? That's the questions they're asking. They're very good at negotiating. They are so getting their solution to be the one that is selected. And they also are able to write about complex topics in very simple terms so that people can understand them and people can buy into what they're saying. If they are unable to take those complex interactions and mechanisms into something simple, then they will lose their audience, which is the executive. They also understand the business. For them to be able to be effective as a visionary and to be able to put together an architecture, an enterprise security architecture that is good for the organization, they really need to be able to understand what the business is trying to do and be able to put together those compelling business cases that makes the business hungry for the projects that they are suggesting, and hungry to be in a better position and to reach the place where you're suggesting, or the visionary is suggesting where they go. So that's the bigger picture. So I'm trying to paint this picture of each of these individuals with different skill sets, and there's nothing that stops them from merging into one another, right? So you can take someone who's been a pen tester, and if they develop their skills in communication, then they can come and be a critic and review things and fix things up, and then they can go and be a visionary. They can really understand the bigger picture because they've spent all this time looking at risks and solutions and putting in kit. They've done all this stuff. And that's kind of the progression that people take. They can come in sideways and not have experience either way, but I'd suggest that the most successful critics are those that have been warriors, and the most successful visionaries are those that have been critics, and the most successful managers, cybersecurity managers, are those that have been all three in that sort of an order. And that's what this next person is: the leader, the manager of this team, the management of the practice, the owner of security in the organization is a really important role. And to hire someone in this area, then really they need to have experience in all three disciplines. And it doesn't always necessarily be that way. There are cybersecurity managers who have just been managers of different disciplines and have come in and need to learn a lot about security. That's not always a bad thing. That's a fresh look at security. But you generally find that those cybersecurity managers are those with a long history and a kind of vintage in security. They need to be approachable. I firmly believe this. If you've got a cybersecurity practice that no one wants to actually engage with, then you've already lost the game. If you are open and approachable, say, hey, come on, we'll try and help. If you're trying to be a genuinely helpful person, then that is the way to get people in your organization to believe that security is something good to do. The cybersecurity manager should also not be knocked about by strong personalities. Avoiding strong personalities or saying you won't work with strong personalities is not a solution. Saying that someone is too difficult to deal with is not a way to do business and engage with the business. the way I would look at it is if there is a difficult person to deal with, that is the person who is the most rewarding to engage with and then win over. I think that's the way to look at it. If you've got strong personalities at any level of the organization, they're often there because they're doing a good job and they're good at what they do, and maybe they feel that they're protected that way. And if that's the case, then you need to be able to work with them and bend with them to understand how they work and to help them to succeed in what they do so that they can help you succeed in what you do. And understanding that in a holistic picture, not to get offended, not to get all prickly and push them away, but to keep approaching them and treat them with respect is really important. You are going to have strong personalities in your own team if you're going to be a cybersecurity manager of an organization of a certain size, and that is and that's right at the coalface. You can't you're managing strong personalities who are dealing with other people, so you have to deal with them, and that means you've got to take the knocks and bruises. Because if you're going to be a cybersecurity manager that never sticks their neck out, never says we're going to achieve something, then that is a safe cybersecurity manager, but it's also one that is not effective. But if you are someone who is saying, yes, we will do this, we will go the extra mile, we will meet you halfway, we won't just throw standards at you, but we will help you find a solution, we will be a part of the solution, not just a problem for you to overcome, then you are going to get knocked and bruised. It is a courageous way of being a cybersecurity manager, of putting your neck out there and saying, this is what I think the solution is to this problem, right? So we can often, as cybersecurity managers, always be pointing at the negative, saying, that's a problem, that's a problem, that's a problem. It's up to everyone else to find a way to do it, to fix it. But what we should be doing is saying, that's a problem, and these are your options for resolving that problem. And then giving the organization the information to choose. And I've got something further to say about that later. But basically, going that way, you're sticking your neck out. You're going to get some knocks, you're going to get some bruises, and you've got to keep going. Got to be able to cut to the chase quickly. We have many people in the organization who believe that their way is the only right way. That's just natural of human nature. We need to be able to cut to what the key issues are, and the way we do that, yes, is threat scenarios. We talk about what the actor is, we talk about what the asset is, and we talk about what the negative impact is, and we say this is what we're trying to address, this one. And if they don't believe that your threat scenario is plausible, then go away and figure out how to convince them that it is, or maybe it isn't plausible and you need to drop it. So it's one of those things that I like to check, is that when someone is skeptical of the security measures that I'm suggesting, and I provide them with the threat scenario, if they're still skeptical and they don't believe that will address it, then it's time to have a big workshop and a discussion to convince them otherwise, or convince yourself otherwise. But if they then understand the threat scenario and then decide, yes, I back your solution, then you know your threat scenario is on the money. And many conversations like that where it's ended up that way, much better. So you've got to cut to the chase quickly. Got to be efficient in management tasks. We don't have all the time in the world. I'd say, well, I think it's about 75% of staff effort is work, and about 25% is actually administrative work, and it's probably about 40% for managers. So you've got a lot of work to do. You've got not only got to maintain the security organization, but you've also got to maintain the coordination of your team. So you've got to be efficient in those management tasks. You can't spend 60% of your time making sure everyone's doing the right thing. You've got to put in some systems. You've got to keep tabs on people, and you've got to automate it to some degree, and you've got to be efficient. So that's important as well. And to do that, we have to set up frameworks and automation, like I just said regarding the automation. But putting together, you don't want to do repetitive tasks. If you've done something once, you want to be able to either document it, hand it over to somebody else, delegate it, or you automate it. So you're trying to get rid of those time-intensive tasks. Some things you can't get away from. Writing a report, like a threat and risk assessment report or an incident report, You can't get away from those things generally if you're the one doing them. If you've got a team with enough depth and maturity to do that for you, then that's terrific, and you can be the reviewer. But if you're smaller than that, then you can't get rid of some of those things. So then the cybersecurity manager also communicates with the executive and management and frontline staff. So they need to be talking all the way through the organization, have the capability to do so. If you are hiring one of these people, you want to be impressed by how they talk to you in the interview, how they've written up their CV, and how they've written their cover letter. You don't want to be unimpressed by those things, because they are going to need heavy skills in that area. All right, we might stop for some questions, Margie, if that's all right.
So we've got two questions here.
Yeah.
Anyone else who has any, please feel free to post them. Firstly, where did the concept for these resource types, i.e. the visionary, the critic, etc., come from?
Where did they come from? Well, they
Mm.
were I they were put together for this course. I think a couple of months ago, I was thinking about this course as we were putting it together, and I was trying to think of um, good names for these pillars that we have in security and how it's structured, and basically it's come down to what are kind of a little bit sensational names to describe the key types of people that you need in a security practice. So really, I'm trying to make it easy to remember, so that when you're looking for people in the organization, you can identify these people with skills. And these are the I guess the old kind of dramatic names for the kind of skills that we need in security. So they came from me, if that's probably the real answer.
Yeah, yep.
Cool.
Peter says that you did a great job then.
Oh, good.
Um, so the second the second question is, if you meet most of the aspects mentioned in the warrior, critic, or visionary roles, but not specifically in the info security field, how difficult is it to transition from non-info information security to an an IT security career path?
Yeah.
Are there any recommended pathways?
Yeah, it depends what you want to do. So I think the easiest way is into one of these, into a critic role. I think that's probably the easiest way in if you don't have a technical background. If you have a technical background, I would say that the easiest way in is to start breaking things, and then demonstrating how you broke those things, even on your own terms, and even in the organization that you're a part of, going that extra mile and buddying up with the security people. When I was going through my career, I did quite a number of years of IT support, all the way from desktop to server and network support. And then I did my first security role. And my idea was to get a really good understanding of the IT landscape as a whole before I went into security. And that worked really well for me. It meant that I could come into a security role as I would say I was first a critic. Then I did some pen testing as well. So I did some of the warrior. I'm still heavily in incident response. That's my favorite part, I think. And then I've spent quite a few years as a visionary as well, being a security architect in an organization. So it is, to answer your question, you can enter it from any field. It's just a matter of time and effort. It's not easy. I think it's easier if you're coming from a technical background, but there's still ways to get into it. I hope I answered that question.
Yep. There are a couple more. Did you want to hear them now, or we can go through
Yeah,
them later?
do a couple more. That's all right.
Yep. So what do you rate more highly out of certifications like the CISP or years of experience?
Mm. Um, it depends on the experience, but if I'm looking for someone in a particular role, then I will look for experience in that role. And if they have a CISP, it's like a little extra tick that says, yep, they're suitable for it, because I know that they can put their mind to something and achieve it more than the content of the CISP. I think latest iteration of the CISP is a bit jumbled, and it's a mile wide and sometimes a mile deep when it doesn't need to be. So I think that the experience will give you more value than the CISP, but the CISP is also good for knowing people can academically put their mind to something, which is important in this field as well.
Hmm. And for interviews, do you find it's important to have technical assessments or challenges for likely candidates?
Yeah, no, it's really good. So it's not always necessary. You can get to someone's technical knowledge pretty quickly if you have some technical knowledge of your own by asking specific questions. And people can bluff their way through tool names and what they use for this, and can really give you an idea of what they've done. But as soon as you ask, well, what did you actually do with that tool? How did you use it? What was the response from the server? What server did you use it on? Did you use it in a real way? And you ask specific questions, you can, and if you will find out if they are technically astute and they have technical depth if they carry on with the conversation. If you start getting vague answers, obviously they're trying to fill in the gaps, and sometimes technical people will try and pull the wool over your eyes and give you an answer when they don't really know the answer. And if you're technical enough, you can call that out. Failing that, and also to enhance that, you can set a technical challenge. One of the challenges that is a good one to do is to set up a site that they can try and break into. A good utility for that is WebGoat from OWASP. They have this modularized web server that is built like an absolute dog on purpose and has about 20 ways of breaking into it. And you can provide them with something similar, or even just a web server with SQL injection or something like that, and ask them to break into it. And that's a very interesting practice as well. You can see people have a natural ability, and those who have had experience before very quickly from that. So both are important, but if you've got the technical knowledge, you can do it through the interview. Okay. Was that 4 questions, Maggie?
Yes, it
It
was.
was. Cool. All right, we might continue on. Thank you for that. We have, now that we've talked about the different types of people, we've also got a need to keep track of these resources. We have them in our organization. We need them to be effective, and we need to show that they are being effective as well. It's no good hiring someone, saying go about your business, and never hearing from them again. They may be addressing risk, but you may not know about it. So you need to be able to track resource time. And this is controversial because it adds administrative overhead. But if you don't track where your staff are using their time to some degree, then you have no leg to stand on to ask for more resources. If I had a manager come to me and say, hey, look, I need 3 extra resources. We're getting absolutely hammered here. And they just give me anecdotal evidence. The guys are really busy. They're staying late. They're doing it. And I say, well, what are they working on? They say, oh, all kinds of stuff. And they list them and things like that. Oh, okay, fine. But if you don't actually give evidence to say, well, my guys are working 50% on, technical operations. They're working 50% on incident response. This guy's working 20% on the security program. That kind of evidence to say, look, if you actually want to address more risk in this area and do more reviews in this area, you need more people because we're not covering everything we need to cover. So that's the idea of tracking resource time. It's a common thing. It's like having field technicians. They can only get to so many sites and do so many, air conditioning installs in a day. So if you want to do more air conditioning installs, you need to do more in a day. But it's very easy to track air conditioning installs. What security people do and cybersecurity people do is that they is not very trackable a lot of the time. So you've got to be able to have that in your organization. Some tools that can help there, Jira, Redmine, RT, things like that, to help there, and try and use what people have put together. You can even use Outlook as well if you're pretty fancy with that. So this is all about achieving a balance between risk and resources. You need to be able to give the business a choice between hiring more staff to do security or getting contractors or getting a third-party person a third party company, and the risk that presents to the organization, right? You say you've got this big bucket of risk. We can slice off this much every year. If you want to slice bigger chunks, you need more resources, and they need to be able to make that decision. And the only way they can make that decision is with tracking of resource time and statistics. You always want to expand the skill sets of your staff. You don't want them being stagnant, just working on the same things all the time. You want them to be able to hand over their work and move on to other things. Find out what they naturally enjoy. Find out what they gravitate towards and encourage that. Tell them that that's what they're good at, and give them opportunities to do that. It can cause disruption. Sometimes it's more comfortable just getting people doing what they do now and not change, but you will have change because they'll end up leaving your team faster because they're not growing. Excuse me. Also, the internal candidates, well, I mentioned them at the start of the live session, but it's important to look for these people who are possible stars in your team. They are what you would consider valuable resources with that internal knowledge. And if you can get someone internal to fit the bill and to grow in a security manner to be effective, then that is a good place to be. You haven't had to outsource that, and you've taken from inside. Obviously, somebody else has to replace that headcount somewhere else, though, but you can leave that up to them. The way to do that and the way to expand skill sets is to have a development plan for your resources. And I like to do this backwards. I like to say, what position do you want in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 5 years' time? Do you want to, maybe you're a warrior now and you want to go to be a critic, or maybe you're a critic and you want to be a visionary, or maybe you're a visionary and you want to go and be a warrior. Maybe you want to get down to the technical level again. Well, what is that position? What role do you want in 5 years? Do you want to be in this place in 5 years' time, or do you want to be somewhere else in 5 years' time? And whatever their answer is, the manager's response, the leader's response should be, how do we get you there? Even if it is to a different organization, how do we give you the skills to step up into a more exciting role in some other organization? And along the way, even though it'll take you time and effort, they will benefit your team, and you actually might show them more of a vision and a strategy of what they're going to be and what they could be in your organization. They might actually stick around. If they're talking already about being a different organization and growing out of their current role, then not helping them do that, they're going to leave anyway. But helping them do that, but coming alongside them and showing them what they can do in their own organization might make them stay. So you have that 5-year career plan. What do you want to be in 5 years' time? 2-year achievement plan. So what do you need to put under your belt over the next 2 years to achieve your 5-year career plan? What do you need to start working on? Do you need to have a big IDS rollout to put on your CV? Do you need an achievement like implemented a risk management framework across the entire organization, or obtained 27001? What kind of achievement do you want to come up with? What kind of things do you want to achieve? And they must be pointing towards your career plan, right? And then 1-year training plan. So if you want to achieve a few things, you want to get 27001, well, a building block to that is just getting the lead auditor's certificate. So what technical skills do you need? Either soft, like communication skills, or hard skills like working out how to configure the IPS. Do you need to achieve your 2-year plan? So you work this backwards, and they fold into each other. So every year you should be reviewing this. So you can have a look back in 5 years' time, and you'll notice the career plans change quite a bit, but they've always been achieving something. They've been trying something new, and they've been growing. And that is a good place to be as a cybersecurity professional. Okay, so that's how you give them that kind of vision as well about where they're going. Now, there was that at the start, this one here, there was management down, and we've talked a lot about that, but now I'm going to talk about governance up just for a little while. So we are the manager here, is keeping these resources happy. They're keeping the skill sets they need. They're managing these things here. There's policies, there's standards. That's all happening in the security practice. Now they have to look up, and the executive is sitting up here. The rest of the organization is sitting around here. The executive's up here, and the cybersecurity manager allows them to govern the direction of the practice, right? So you imagine this is the ship, and this is the rudder up here, right? So you're heading in a direction and you're getting things done. But the governance part is about allowing the executives of the organization to know what you're doing as a team and to push it in the right direction, right? That's the governance. Here we are. So it's allowing the executives to set direction. And that means you have to educate the executive team. You have to send the information up. You give them incident reports. You break down the complex scenarios into understandable threat scenarios and risks to assets. And you give them threat and risk assessments, which are basically the same thing. An incident report is all about what's happened in a bit of a catastrophe and how you're going to wrap that up and fix it, not only at a tactical level, but at a strategic level with short-term and long-term recommendations. And then the threat and risk assessment is a particular threat that has been identified in the organization that hasn't actually turned into an incident, but you want to draw attention to it and provide recommendations to resolving it as well. So it's a kind of a preemptive strike, if you like. And often they come from doing project reviews. You're asking questions and you find out some negative things, some unsavory things about another system that you need to drag up in a risk assessment. You then have educated up, you've shown them what the risks are, you've given them an idea of how the practice is working, you then request direction. And the way that I like to approach requesting direction is to provide a direction and say, do you approve with this direction? And that is basically providing a strategic goal, a roadmap, a plan, a team goal, give them a structure of resources that they can understand. Okay, so giving them a picture of this, right? Giving them this picture with how you're going to report up, how you're going to manage down, and who you've got in these three columns doing what work, because all of these bits of work need to happen, and who's doing them. You give them that view. You say, this is how we're going to work. And they say, well, I think we need more testing, so let's get more resources over here. You know, giving them that visual way of providing direction is really important to getting direction from them. Then you provide the straw man. So I don't like presenting a problem without having a few solutions up the sleeve, right? So in security, if you're always presenting the problem without any solutions, it becomes boring. It comes with the boy who cried wolf, all the time. It may be real, there may be real wolves, but if you don't have a solution for it, then no one really knows what to do. So provide the straw man. Always think, if I was in their position, what would I want to do? And always putting yourself in the shoes of the audience to who you're presenting to will give you a better understanding of how to approach the problem. That's how I approach it anyway. Now, when we're talking to the executives, one way that I like to provide a good summary of what's happened in the year is to provide an annual cybersecurity report, give them an introduction about what the practice is doing, where it's come from. Then I give them some summary and statistics of incidents. How many incidents have we suffered? Have they been high, medium, low ones? Do we have statistics over how we're conforming to standards with our project review? So if there's projects going into the systems going into the organization and projects going into the organization, how are they stacking up against the standards? Then we talk about the major risks that are still in the risk register and not being addressed. These may come up year after year, but if you don't air them out in in a report every now and then no one's going to know that they're sitting in your closet. So that's a good way to get them out. You might talk about the security program, what it's done, where it's come from, and what it plans to do in the year to come. Then you might talk about your compliance objectives, where you've come from a percentage point of view, and how you're doing there. And then also industry trends, what's happening around you, how is the landscape changing, what are going to be threats in the future, and then maybe major challenges. And what I've taken this from is from the concept of the data breach investigation report, or the Symantec report on viruses and things like that. They're giving a state of play and keeping a record of what the security team has done over the years. And this is a great way of doing it. The first annual report will be a lot of work. Subsequent annual report is a lot of work to do, and often you need a lot of spare time, and you don't have that as a cybersecurity manager. But I encourage you to make the time, because it is a powerful and impactful thing. It's like it encapsulates everything that we're trying to do, and is another communication tool to get support for doing our security initiatives the year after. So a very important thing. Now, internal communication, we obviously need to be able to talk to frontliners as the cybersecurity manager. We get them to review policies annually. We give them regular warnings about don't open that crazy post office email, or that tax receipt, or that parcel delivery. You've got to be able to talk to the management team. If there's repeated policy violations, you need to discuss with them, or you need to change controls, like change systems so that they are more controlled. Then you need to talk about those things. So you need to be able to talk to the management team, and obviously up to the executive team. And this is a key thing for the cybersecurity manager is communication. The executive team needs to know about incidents, those TRAs, and the annual report, like we've just discussed. When you're talking to a security team, you need to give them an idea of the organizational changes and what the organization is doing. They have then a perception of the organization that they're a part of. You may be the only avenue of knowledge for that, because you're most likely in meetings that have more of an executive approach, an executive view, and so you can share some of those insights with them, which is often fascinating to the team. You need to talk about changes to controls, the major risks that you've come up with and that the team members have identified, urgent tasks. Like the whole idea with the team is to prioritize. We could spend a whole year doing work that doesn't provide any benefit right now, but if we didn't prioritize. But if we prioritize, then we can have a much more of an impact and be a lot more effective. So that's also important. And now there's two kind of major tasks: BAU tasks and project tasks. BAU tasks are tasks that don't really have as a class of tasks a beginning and an end. So those types of tasks are always there. Project tasks naturally have a beginning and an end. They start and they stop, and then you're working on something else. So there's different ways of looking at things. BAU's got to be done. Project tasks have also got to be done, but you've got to track all of them. And then also malicious staff, who you might be communicating with, all different people in the organization, but occasionally someone will do something that is not in line with policy, and they are clearly violating policy and being maybe they're disgruntled. And that's obviously, you want to communicate with them that you know what's going on and that you'll be referring to them HR. Don't deal with them on your own. Sorry. Now, when communicating externally, there's a few tricks. So the cybersecurity manager is in the unenviable position of providing advice to customer relations sometimes. They're also grappled by vendors, and often, and also malicious outsiders. So we come into contact with outsiders, even if we're not running an external practice and we're only inwardly focused. We sometimes come up against external comms. I would say take great care with external communications. If you're dealing with vendors, they can try and scare you into purchasing their product. That is very effective for a cybersecurity manager that is flat chat, not able to get things done. I would say if you're in a position of being a flat chat cybersecurity, not managed to get things done, then the last thing you need is extra kit in your organization. You probably need to sort out framework, structure, and risk assessment things first, and getting the right resources in the team, and then start thinking about purchasing equipment. Vendors will often say, "Oh, I heard that your systems were impacted. If you come and meet me, I'll tell you how." Don't fall for that. Uh, think about this. Give me the evidence, or it didn't happen. Right. So if you've seen something, have the courtesy to provide me with the information, or I don't believe you. And if they're not providing the evidence and the information, then don't meet up with them. And if it turns out to be true and they did have something they were withholding from you, then you can take you can be upset about that and have difficult words with them. But you can say, well, if you gave me the evidence, we could have done something about it. It's on them then. The other point is that, don't call me, I'll call you with vendors. It's sometimes nice to be taken out for lunch, dinner, all that sort of stuff, but it never comes without some sort of requirement to purchase. I would say stick to those vendors who you're buying regularly from, and if you need to actually purchase equipment, then obviously only once you've purchased, then I guess feel free to spend some more time with them, but limit that as much as possible. Malicious outsiders are very tricky. Sometimes you'll get direct threats, and it might be tempting to go to them and say, yeah, we don't believe you, I'm the security manager, you're full of it, give us details. Try and do it through public relations. Try not to have an external face. It can lead to further damage to the organization by having comments taken the wrong way, or by accidentally making frustrating comments and having that come up in the newspaper or something like that. So try and filter all your communications through public relations. With customers, obviously customer relations, they have a way of talking to customers that is well defined, and using them to talk to customers is preferred as well. Try not to go directly. You can get into a tussle and it can work out badly. So I'm saying here, really, with external communications, you want to be filtering through the areas of the organization that deal with those directly. And then the mainstream media, that's a really difficult one. So there is a challenge with organizations if they suffer a large incident and it ends up in the papers. There is a trick. Have I got this down here? Yeah, here we go. There is a trick to being honest and open about what has happened, and not providing too much information to allow other attackers to try the same thing, right? So there needs to be a level of honesty, and there needs to be truth in what you're saying, but there sometimes doesn't need to be the detail to incriminate certain people or systems, and to provide a sign for other people to follow. So it's important. Certainly never mislead and never provide information that is not accurate. You must always validate your details. So if you're saying something about a particular situation and you are not certain that it's happened that way, but you'd like it to have happened that way, make sure you validate that before you actually make that statement. Validating a statement will save embarrassment later on, definitely, and people make that mistake all the time in the media. There is this balance between quick reply and letting the dust settle. You don't want for customers to be hanging out there not knowing what's going on, so you've got to provide regular information, but don't go out there so quickly your information is half-baked. If there is a lot of emotion and there is a fair bit of chaos going on, it's good to get it written down. It's good to put the facts down, whiteboard what's going on, always whiteboard what's going on, and then let the dust settle and make the statement. But you can't wait too long. You've got to be able to get it out there. So that's balance between having a quick reply and getting a sense of the situation. Make sure everything's vetted by public relations, like I said. Make sure you have recursive review, which means basically reviewing your team and then review with a broader team and then review with public relations. That can slow things down, but when there's something urgent that needs to go out, it's surprising how quickly people get things done. And then also study other approaches. There has been some horrific approaches to public relations to do with security. Statements always like such and such take security seriously, the security of our customers seriously. Sometimes we have a breach and we will be notifying everyone, right? So study other approaches, find out what works well. Sometimes these things come in season and then aren't so popular anymore. So keep up to date with that. What works well? Does the full open and honesty, this is what happened, work well? Or does the avoiding the subject work well? I would suggest you have an honest approach. You obviously need to maintain confidential details, but be as honest as possible and open as possible. All right, now keeping sharp. So we've been talking about so many things to do with working in an organization, technical details. We're talking about reviewing other people's projects and getting compliance. We're talking about building an empire of security architecture out there. How do you keep all this in the head? How do you stay on top of it? There's a whole world of technology moving out there, and we need to move as fast as all of those pieces put together so we understand the risk that is presented by those technical areas like storage, like networks, like virtualization, like software-defined network, like cloud architecture, like all these things that are happening, BYOD, smartphones, the whole landscape is changing. And as security professionals, we need to understand the risks that each of those technology advancements involves. How do we keep up to that and stay efficient and keep our staff happy and keep our executives happy? Well, we need to stay sharp. We need to study. So well done, everyone, getting on here and studying. Good to see the 200 of you in the live session now. And those who are listening later on, good on you for keeping up those certifications and making sure that you have something behind you and you're developing. So you still need to do that. You need some good organizations for that are ISACA, SANS, and IC Squared. They're kind of the major ones. There's some other ones that are emerging. Some very particular for warriors, some very particular for critics, and some very particular for visionaries. The books, Secrets and Lies, is my favorite book. No, the Code Book's my favorite book. Secrets and Lies by Bruce Schneier. These are two books that I'd recommend you reading. There's another one called The Security Mind by someone Day. Yes, The Security Mind, which is a terrific book about what you can do for security without actually purchasing any controls. So it's a really good book, kind of timeless. The Secrets and Lies is Bruce Schneier's book about the difference between cryptography and security, and what cybersecurity means before it was cybersecurity. And the Code Book is an encryption book by Simon Singh, which I just put in there because I really like that book, and I'll probably read it again this year. I like it. Other books for efficiencies, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I think that's really important to there are lots of efficiency and productivity books, but I think that's one of the better ones for really structuring your work and understanding what's important to get done day by day, and managing all those ways that tasks come into your field of vision and your area of responsibility. Podcasts that I listen to, Risky Business. That is the premium Australian one. I did meet Patrick Gray once at an AusCert. We were going to go for a beer, but I went to go see a lecture instead. Patrick, if you're ever listening to this, I'm sorry I did that. We'll go for a beer one day. But Risky Business is I would say, the best podcast for security practitioners around the world. Even though it is Australian based, I think it is the most I would say, balanced opinion and sensible view of security for businesses to listen to. So if there was anything else in this slide that you would do, you would go and listen to Risky Business every week to get a better understanding of the security practice and the security landscape. It'll help you think more like a strategic thinker than just reacting to your own business. Then there's paul.com.com, which is a good one. I think they're excellent as well. They're more on the pen testing and technical side, I guess. I haven't listened to for them a while. There was quite a lot of fun in there as well, and I didn't have time for the fun. So congratulations to them for making a fun podcast, but I needed the something a bit more punchy. There's also podcasts for productivities, the 5 a.m. Miracle. I was recently told by someone I respect. There's also communication podcasts. The Public Speaker is a good one. And then also management podcast. Manager Tools is a really good podcast as well for working out how to go about day-to-day management and doing the right thing there. It's very American, but still, some of these are, and you can't get rid of it. The quality is very high. Industry groups to be a part of. You can't do this all on your own. You need to be able to cross-pollinate with other industry experts. ISACA and ASA are really good industry groups to be a part of. Conferences, there's the ASA one, the ACSC one, the one in Canberra now, the Australian Cybersecurity Centre. Then there's AusCert as well, which is up in Queensland every year. All very good to get to if you can. Then there's government groups as well. You should really be hooked into CERT if you need to, if you're part of an industry that the country relies on, and you need to know about incidents and you need help with incidents. They're a good group to be a part of. If you need to report an incident to the AFP or the Australian Crime Commission or the ACSC, you can do it through the ACORN website, and that will hook you up to the right people. That's also the Australian Federal Police, the Australian Crime Commission, and US and UK CERT. If you are not receiving alerts from the US and UK CERT, they send out some excellent advisories for not only incidents that are occurring now, but also vulnerabilities that have been released as well. So very good stuff. They use US and UK CERT. They send it out for free. It's good stuff. So get onto that. And also the SANS vulnerability one, what's it called? Mental block. But there's a vulnerability list provided by SANS as well, and I'll remember it as soon as this webinar stops, I'm sure. But you can go to their site and sign up for that. Okay, and that's keeping sharp, and it takes a lot of diligence. I don't do all these things during work hours. It's about making the most of travel time, making the most of every bit of time you can to keep sharp, and it's not easy. Always staying on top of all these things is a difficult task and is very demanding. All right, so now we're talking, whoops, I just jumped out of there. Managing, let's start it again. Sorry about that, not sure. So this is a kind of a personal slide, but we all have to think about the stress that this causes for us as individuals, right? So if you're part of an organization that's very fast paced, they're doing a lot of things, you don't have enough resources, you don't have enough budget, it's often the way you are constantly being attacked and responding to incidents, and you're worried about the next attack. It is stressful, even a varying range of that. It is stressful. So depending on the size of the organization and the team that you have, and the expectations from the executives, you need to be able to manage that somehow. When you have incidents that occur, you can drive stress through the team, but don't, and some stress is good, but don't burn your resources. If you say to all your team,
Sorry, Jeremy.
yep.
The slide doesn't seem to be showing up.
No. Hang on. Is that?
Oh, there we are.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Thanks, Maggie. I I'd actually press the pause button somehow. So I talked about size of the organization, team, culture of the organization, and the expectations of the executive. They can all be factors of driving a certain amount of stress into the team and into yourself as a cybersecurity manager. When incidents occur, there's naturally stress because there is a time factor involved and a response factor, and working out all of the individual aspects of the incident is important. I was saying there, don't burn resources. You can make people work for 48 hours on end, but you will need someone to pick up the pieces afterwards and to continue doing the security practice. So make sure you rest people as well as get the most out of them. And there are some people who are open to that and some people who are less capable of doing that. But just be aware of that. Don't burn them irreparably, and give them time off afterwards. Address risks. So a lot of managing stress as a cybersecurity manager is making sure you're being proactive and treating risks as you find them. If you're sitting there going home every night and you know that there are a lot of risks out there and there is imminent threats to your organization, you are not going to sit comfortably with that. So it's important to do that, to get rid of those particular items. But don't be motivated by fear. Try to keep a cool head when dealing with these things, because that will transfer to everyone else. If you're feeling emotional and you're feeling like you want to rip your hair out and react in an emotional way, like angrily in an email or angrily to a customer, just wait until the dust settles a bit. Wait till you have recovered a bit and then try and move on. All of this takes a little bit of self-control, but it's important. Don't um, don't forget the things that you plan to do. Document important points, right? So not just important points during an incident, but in meetings, in things that you said you're going to do, and what you think you're going to remember, you won't remember later. There's so many things going on for the cybersecurity manager. They're doing so many different tasks that you need to write things down. And you may get to 5 pages in your notebook of writing things down and you haven't looked back. But at some stage, you'll get a breathing space and look back and clean up those tasks that you said that you'll do. So write things down. You won't remember them. You think, yes, I remember that, but no, the brain doesn't work like that unless you're some superhuman and you are not working in a very engaging or demanding area. It won't be that way. And then think of the bigger picture. Think of what you are trying to achieve to get rid of that fear, right? So don't don't allow yourself to be caught up in the moment and only be driven by the current situation. Try and draw yourself out. Think of the bigger picture. Think of this is just a moment where incidents are occurring. There'll be better times ahead. There'll be less stressful times if we get these things done, and let that motivate you. The bigger picture motivate you rather than the small, reactive, fear-driven picture. There's also external diversions. Make sure you get this is kind of obvious stuff, but we can forget to do it. Make sure you get enough exercise. Make sure you do have that thinking time. Maybe it's the podcast that you listen to, but you end up not listening to it because your mind just wanders and thinks about something else. Have that thinking time. Have that relaxation time. I like to go fishing. That's my relaxation time. I like to work on my little dinghy with my son. That's my time for having downtime and not thinking about anything else. Find peace and quiet, and try, because if you are in a role like the cybersecurity manager roles that I've been in the past, they are chaotic. There's no way around that. There is a whole organization out there screaming for security in different ways, and if you don't find some sort of peace and quiet at some stage, like taking holidays, making sure you're taking space, then you will have a difficult time there. So it's important with this chaotic role to temper it with mental space as well. Okay. All right. So final thoughts. Cybersecurity management. I'm talking about some of the nasty things, but it's challenging and rewarding. I think that it's one of the better industries to be a part of. I really enjoy it. It's a growing market. You're not going to be without a job if you're a good cybersecurity manager. There's plenty of work out there. The benefits of being a cybersecurity manager are not just financially in some cases, but also it's rewarding because you're doing something good generally, and you're getting people to trust you. And if you get people to trust you, you will be effective in the organization. If they know you're not going to take them for a ride, they know they're not going to burn their fingers when dealing with you, then they will work with you better and be better. So remember that as a cybersecurity manager, it's all about trust, gaining the trust of those around you. Key triplets. These are principles of mine that have served me well over the years. Confidentiality, integrity, availability. We all know those. I actually don't use them very much, but I thought I'd put them in here because I haven't really discussed them much. The next one is passwords, patching, and antivirus. When you come up to a system or an environment, the first thing you want to know is, have they got account management right? Have they got the password strength and account provisioning right? Have they got patching right? Is their software patch and development right? And do they have antivirus? Can they protect against malware? Those are the three major controls that we deal with all the time. And if you're doing a security review of an environment, ask yourself, are they doing passwords and accounts well, patching and software, antivirus? So passwords, patching, and antivirus. Three key tenets to keeping systems secure. You get those three right, then a lot of the other risks go away. You step the level up to the next level. I know the ASD of their top four. This is my top three. And I guess almost the four of their top four fit into these top three. But these are, I think, a different way of looking at them. The other key triplet is threat scenarios. I cannot stress this enough. You should be in your mind thinking, threat scenario, I know those components: an asset, a negative impact, and an actor. We have the asset of the company, the impact on that asset in a negative sense, and the actor who perpetrated the threat. The threat scenario, it's a story about what can happen to company assets. That's key. These are key triplets that I've worked with and have served me well. Now, what have we not covered? So this is now at the end of our short course. There's some things that we haven't dived into detail. We haven't done all the disciplines in detail. We haven't gone through everything that you would in a larger course, and had an experience in every single one of those. The full courses would give you a better opportunity to do that. We also haven't covered business continuity and disaster recovery. I know a lot of curriculums cover that, but I actually find that if BCP and DR is actually in the security team, it's generally a discipline on its own. It's not that much about the pure security that like being a warrior, critic, and visionary is about, and addressing risks. It's addressing security risks. Business continuity is much more about addressing direct business risk and outage risks, same as disaster recovery with IT systems. So I often find these better placed. Business continuity, I find them better placed in either finance or risk, and disaster recovery, I think, is better in IT. But that's just my opinion. Sometimes they end up in security anyway. And I also haven't covered off physical security. I think this is starting to move away from cybersecurity. We don't cover it in this course. In the traditional CISP and CISM, you do cover it to some degree. Final thing there is that if you do want to connect on LinkedIn, I talked about being part of community and being hooked into an industry globally. LinkedIn gives us that option, so I'm happy to connect with people on LinkedIn. Please do, in your LinkedIn request, reference this MOOC, reference the cybersecurity course, because otherwise I don't know. I get a lot of LinkedIn requests and I don't know they're from the course. So please do link in with me if you want to be part of that. I generally do link in with students from other courses, so you'll be hooking up to that that community as well to make it real in the future. And that means I'm also contactable as well. Okay, and now final points on the exam. Points on the final exam. It'll be available from the 16th to the 31st of December. It is 1 hour long. There's 40 multiple choice questions, and each student only gets a single attempt, so be aware of that. You do need to satisfy some prerequisites to obtain the certificate. You need to complete all the 4 homework tasks. And if you don't do that, the exam won't unlock for you and you won't be able to take it. You can pass the exam by 11:59, 31st
That should say December.
of December.
Sorry about that.
No, I might have done that, Bargy. Maybe not. I'm not sure. I did read a little bit. And then the contact short courses at itmasters.edu.au for any technical difficulties or inquiries that you might have as well. And if you do contact me, I'll probably just send them your way as well for course details. So yeah, that's fine. And then the final is discussion questions, and they'll be posted to the forum just like every week. Margie, is there there's some questions, or did we have someone else coming to speak as well?
There are a couple of more questions if you'd be
Yeah,
happy to answer them,
yeah,
or
that'd be great.
yep.
Yeah, no problems.
What is your view with gap or risk assessment in order to develop the action or remediation plan to address or patch the gap?
Yeah, I think that's my view is that's a very effective method of doing it, and sometimes the only method of highlighting a risk and what needs to be addressed. A gap assessment generally performed on a system or an environment against a criteria, and depending on the criteria and on the risks coming out of it, they can give you an easy way to address risks. I would say that out of a gap assessment, you really want a weighted list of priorities. So make sure you put likelihood and impact beside each of the gaps that you find, or aka risks, and then you can address them in that order. If you don't give a prioritized approach, they'll just go for the easiest ones first and not get too much benefit out of it, and probably address less risk. I hope that's answering the question.
What career development plan do you suggest in situations where employers are concerned more with cost saving rather than looking at experience?
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess you need to find the right place to be employed as well. Sometimes, if the organisation is not serious about security, maybe that's not the best place to develop as a security person. But I will say that as part of the security manager's role is to take an organisation that doesn't understand security and doesn't have very good security awareness, and to convey the importance of security. So sometimes you may be starting on a very low base level of understanding, and if you are effective as a cybersecurity manager, then maybe you can turn the tide and allow the resources to flow for security as they understand it or they hurt themselves. Often people are looking for security people because they've just had an incident. It's not an unusual thing to have an incident and have people hiring cybersecurity people, have companies hiring cybersecurity people directly afterwards. Usually it takes about 6 months after an incident for agencies to come calling after an incident for that particular organization, because it takes some time to organize. But that can be a benefit as well, because you're riding on the coattails of an incident and you've got resources to work with. But yeah, it's a difficult thing. It changes in an organization too. You may join an organization where the executive team is very pro security, and you may do such a good job that after a while they think, well, security is not such a big thing for us. We've got it all sorted anyway. We can cut down on resources. So it's always a balance. It's always a challenge. There's always a perception to be managed. I'm happy to take another one, maybe.
Yep. In your experience, what has been the response from senior management to the security manager after a major data breach has occurred? If negative, is it a stressful role worrying about being breached and losing your job or damaging your reputation?
Yeah, it is a stressful role. There's no two ways about it. If you are the lead person responsible for something that has gone wrong or something that has been missed, then there's no question about getting around it. What you need to do during that time is try and put the personal part of it aside, and try and manage it the best you can, and and try and manage your own stress. Maybe it's time then to move on. Maybe the perception of you in the organization has lowered to the point where it's not worthwhile being there anymore. But hopefully that's not the case. That would only be the case of very extreme. I have seen a lot of examples of cybersecurity managers who have worked through breaches, worked through um, newspaper articles, all that sort of thing, and come out the other side better security managers. So I challenge anyone to stick with it and to work through it. And maybe one more, Maggie. We'll call it a course.
That seems that seems to be it.
Oh,
Oh,
great.
what other? Well, there is one more.
Okay.
What are the recommended security certification tracks to invest in?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So there's the classic ones. The CISSP is probably the most well known, kind of most well established. The CISM from ISACA, the CISA, the Certified Information Security Auditor. There's all sorts of them of ones to get. I'll quickly say, if you're looking for warrior skills, head down the penetration testing ones like the GPEN or the OSCP. If you're looking at critics ones, look at PCI and 27001 certifications. If you're looking at architecture, you're probably best looking at either SABSA, in the visionary area, looking at SABSA, or the IT architecture, TOGAF, yeah, things like that. The cybersecurity manager, you can go straight for CISM or the other ones from IC Squared and GIAC, SANS. Okay, that's just a quick rundown. But this is one of the questions in the homework, so I don't want to give you too much there. Cool.
No worries. Thank you very much for answering those questions.
No problems. I'd like to thank everyone for coming along every week and sticking with it, listening to me for an hour and a half, drive anyone bananas. So thank you for staying attentive, asking deep questions, and all your participation on the forums. I particularly liked the grey log exercise this year. I thought that was fantastic. I love all your questions, all your answers, and the discussions that are going on in the forum. It's created quite a little bit of a community, which is excellent. So thank you, everyone, and I wish you well in the exam. Do diligent study, and hope to see you in another